Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we got a couple of things to discuss as we do a couple more game reviews from the last couple of days of NHL action. With all that coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the Internet Talking Channel. Before I begin this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. We're so close to 200 subscribers. We're only a couple of subscribers away from 200, so don't forget to continue to subscribe. I would never be able to do this with all of you guys, so thanks for all the support, but don't forget to subscribe down below. Today we're going to be doing a couple of game reviews from the last couple of days. We had 11 games on Thursday, as well as 6 games last night on Friday, so I want to touch on all these games that have happened over the past couple of days before we preview today's games, as well as Sunday and Monday's games over the next couple of days. So I want to start with the games that happened on Thursday. First, the Montreal Canadiens took on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Really close game. The Jackets were looking really good early on. I'm pretty sure they had a 3-1 lead at one point, but then a goal from Mike Matheson and then a goal from Sean Monahan were able to allow the Montreal Canadiens to claw back into that game. And after those 3-3 game went to overtime, it was another goal, as you can see here. Remember, all clips are credited to Sportsnet, but as you can see here, the Montreal Canadiens were able to win 4-3 in overtime with another overtime goal from none other than Cole Caulfield. Caulfield gets another one. I think it's the second of the year. He's one of the fastest players, if I'm correct, in NHL history to get the 6 OT goals. So he's done really well this year. He looks really good, and he once again hits another overtime winner as Caulfield helps the Canadiens improve to 4-2-1 on the season with a 4-3 OT victory, come from behind victory over the Columbus Blue Jackets. Both Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield, who had the OT winner, had a goal and 2 assists, a 3.9 in this game. Mike Matheson had a goal and an assist in this game, plus Sean Monahan also had a goal for the Canadiens in the win. Meanwhile, Emil Bemstrom scored twice for the Jackets in the loss, and Roslovic had a 3.9 goal, 2 assists for the Jackets. So a really good game from both sides. Both teams looked really good. Jackets do fall to 3-2-2, so still do above 500, so a pretty good start for the Jackets, but it's another overtime loss for the Jackets in a winnable game. They could have held on, so not great from the Jackets, but Canadiens are able to come away with the victory. Jackets fall to 3-2-2. Going on to San Jose Sharks and Tampa Bay Lightning. The Tampa Bay Lightning came out with fire in their eyes and absolutely smoked the San Jose Sharks. Bolts ended up shutting out the Sharks 6-0. It was all Bolts all the time, right from the get-go. Sharks had absolutely no chance from early on. Bolts wound up finishing with a record of 4-2-2 after the win, so huge one from them to put them 2 games above 500. Stamkos had a goal and an assist. Perbix, Hedman, and Sergachev all had 2 assists in this game, while Paul Point and Glendening, his first in Tampa Bay, as well as Isamont and Hagel, all scored for the Tampa Bay Lightning in the win. So lots of goal scoring from a lot of different places. Good to see Glendening get his first with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Jonas Johansson stopped all 23 shots he faced in the win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So he was once again solid. Second consecutive shutout after shutting out Carolina in the previous game for Johansson. So he looks really good. The Sharks continue to falter. They were at that point down to 0-6-1. So they fall really hard. Another bad loss for San Jose Sharks. They continue to keep winless. Now in 7 games had only 8 goals. So their offense was doing awful. Their defense was not doing overly well. And they looked like one of the worst teams in the league. So Sharks dropped to the Bolts. The Avalanche and their 6-0-0 streak has ended. They dropped to 6-1-0 after the loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Penguins shut out the Colorado Avalanche 4-0 and give the Avalanche their first regulation loss of the season. The Penguins were able to get a couple goals from Riley Smith. They were able to get Ehlers first as member of the Penguins. Crosby, of course, scored for the Penguins. And Jerry stopped all 31 shots he faced in his shutout. So Penguins looked really good. This was the sort of Penguins team I thought I was getting when I expected them to make the playoffs this year. So the Penguins looked really good. Avs looked a little bit slower in this game. Not as good as they have been over the past little while. Not like the undefeated Avalanche that we've seen. But they still looked all right. They just could not solve Jari in this game. So a huge game from Jari. Huge game from the Penguins. It's a really good win that helps them improve to 3-4-0. Meanwhile, it gives the Avalanche their first loss of the season and drops them down to 6-1-0. So huge win there for the Penguins. Then the Winnipeg Jets will continue to be on a hot heater right now, improving to 4-3-0 with their third straight victory of the season, with a 4-1 victory over the really hot Detroit Red Wings, whose 6-game point streak comes to an end. The Jets were able to get goals from Mason Appleton and Nino Niederreiter, who both had a goal and an assist. They also got goals from Nikolai Ehlers and Kyle Connor in the win. Meanwhile, Raymond was the lone goal scorer for the Detroit Red Wings in the losses. They dropped to 5-2-1 on the year. So really bad showing from the Red Wings. That's now back-to-back losses. So they are on the wrong side of the winning streak right now after having 5 straight wins. Hopefully they can bounce back and recover. It's not overly bad, but they didn't look overly great in that game against the Jets. Jets have looked really good over the past little while and are now up to 4-3-0 and above 500. So good to see that the Jets are doing some really good things right now. Then the Bruins looked like they would keep their undefeated streak alive against the Anaheim Ducks, up 3-1 late in the third period. But 2 late third period goals, including one I think with like 15 seconds on the board, would tie the game up for the Bruins and the Ducks. So really good job for the Ducks to get into overtime. And then this goal here from Mason McTavish would give the Ducks the OT winner, as the Ducks would down the Boston Bruins 4-3 in overtime and end the Boston's 6-game winning streak to open the season. So that's fantastic news for the Anaheim Ducks. It was a game they could really use. It's the second overtime victory in a row and it improves their record to 3-4-0. So solid game there from the Anaheim Ducks. Chiari Terry and Leo Carlsson both had a goal and an assist in this game. Strome had 2 assists, and then both Gudas, first as a member of the Anaheim Ducks, and McTavish, who had the OT winner, both scored for the Anaheim Ducks as well in the win. Meanwhile, for Boston, Charlie McAvoy had a 3-assist night. David Pastrnak had a goal and an assist, while Matt Grzelcyk and Charlie Coyle also scored for the Bruins. So Bruins looked pretty good up until like the last couple of minutes in the game, and then they just absolutely collapsed. So Bruins' point streak does extend to 7 games, but they're now 6-0-1 on the season after the loss. Ducks, like I said, I was not expecting them to win this game. Come from behind victory, really resilient. They've definitely shown over the first 7 games that they look all right. They're not a hugely bad team like I said, the Sharks or some of these other teams, but they're showing they have some resiliency in them. So good to see that the Ducks are able to get the win, but the Bruins' point streak continues, but their winning streak ends at 6 games to open the season. Then we have the Canes come back after being down 2-0 early in the first period to the Seattle Kraken. They'll claw their way back, force overtime after making it 2-2 at the end of the regulation, and then in overtime, the Canes would score to give themselves the 3-2 victory and improve their record to 4-4-0. Nashis, who had the OT winner, had a 3-point night, 2 goals and an assist. Kotkaniemi continues his hot start to the season with a goal and an assist. Meanwhile, Bjorkstrand had a goal and an assist for the Kraken, and Shore, his first as member of Seattle, also scored for Seattle, who dropped to 2-4-2 in the season. So really bad start for the Kraken, but still, after starting 0-2-1, they're 2-2-1 since then. So they've done all right since then, but this was a game they could have easily had. They could have held on to the win, but they were not able to hold on to the win and get the win. So really bad for the Kraken, who dropped to 2-4-2. That's a point that they could have really used at that point in time. Canes definitely showing resiliency again. They have a lot of really good ability to score, definitely after being shut out by the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's good to see that they had this sort of a game. They were able to come back, get the 3-2 OT victory, and it's a huge win for the Carolina Hurricanes to improve back up to 500. Going over to the Ottawa Senators, they lost to New York Islanders 3-2. They were down 2-0 at one point. They clawed their way back. They got it to a 2-all game, but then in the third period, the Isles would pull away with 1 goal in the third period, and that would be the end of the game, as the Islanders would come away with a 3-2 victory, ending their losing streak and extending the Senators' losing streak. The Isles improved to 3-2-1. Noah Dobson and Bo Horvat both had a goal and an assist, while Claude Clutterbuck also scored for the Islanders in the win to improve their record of 3-2-1. Meanwhile, Claude Giroux and Jacob Chychrun were the 2 goal scorers for Ottawa, as they drop to 3-4-0 in the season. So definitely, Sens not look overly great, and they once again dug themselves in a hole that they had to claw them out of. But definitely, Owls look like the better team, and the Sens still need to look and try and find something that can work, because they've now lost 3 straight games. The Philadelphia Flyers would beat the Minnesota Wild 6-2. That included this goal here from Bobby Brink, his first career NHL goal. Good to see the young kid who's played in all of the Philadelphia Flyers games, if I'm correct, or at least most of them this season. Good to see him get on the board. He's one of their top-end prospects, so good to see he gets his first NHL goal. Brink had a very, very fantastic game in this one. The Flyers win 6-2 over the Wild, dominating them and improving their record to 4-2-1 on the year. Sanheim had a 3-point night with a goal and 2 assists. Atkinson had a 3-assist night. Brink, as I mentioned, first career NHL goal, actually scored his first 2 career NHL goals in this game, so he got a 2-goal game in his first game scoring an NHL goal. Sean Couturier and Travis Konechny both had a goal and an assist for the Philadelphia Flyers. And Tippett also scored for the Flyers in the win, so a huge win there for the Philadelphia Flyers as they improve to 4-2-1 with the 6-2 victory. The Wild got goal scorers from Dakota Mermis and Marcus Foligno as they lose. Not great. They continue to give up goals in Minnesota. They're losing a couple of key defensemen right now, and they dropped to 3-3-1. So solid game from the Wild, but they lose. They were down 3-0 1 point, clawed back to 3-2, but the Flyers would pull away and make it a 6-2 game. So Flyers continue to do surprisingly well to start the year. Meanwhile, Minnesota is down to 3-3-1 and back down to 500. Then the Toronto Maple Leafs were able to come away with a huge victory against the Cup contender in the Dallas Stars. Handing Dallas Stars their first regulation loss of the season as the Toronto Maple Leafs would beat them 4-1. Solid game from the Leafs. Morgan Rielly had a goal and an assist. Mitch Marner, Tyler Bertuzzi, and John Tavares also scored for the Leafs in the win. Meanwhile, Mason Marchment was the lone goal scorer for the Dallas Stars in the loss. Dallas drops to 4-1-1, so their 5-game point streak to start the year is now ended, and they are now at a 4-1-1 record. Still a solid record from Dallas, and I think they played pretty well in this game, but they do come out on the losing end of the stick. Meanwhile, the Toronto Maple Leafs do wind up getting the win with a huge 4-1 victory. There was a lot of good hockey in this game from Toronto. Joseph Woll once again did fantastic for the Maple Leafs, and I do think they showed really, really good promise as they improved to 5-2-0 to start the year. So after starting out 2-2-0 and having a couple of bad losses, they've now won 3 straight. So Leafs look good. Leafs look like a really good team right now. Leafs look like the team who I was expecting to win the Atlantic Division this year, so good to see that. The Stars dropped to 4-1-1, but still, they had a really good game. It was the first regulation loss of the year, and I expect them to bounce back off of that loss. Then we had both Alberta teams wind up getting shut out on the same night. For the Edmonton Oilers, they got shut out by the New York Rangers 3-0 as the Rangers improved to 5-2-0. Rangers got a goal and an assist from Schneider and Fox. Panarin had 2 assists tonight, and Alexis Lafreniere scored in his 3rd consecutive game. Lafreniere looks really good right now, looking like the first overall pick the Rangers drafted. So they had really good games from those guys. Quick stopped all 29 shots he faced in his first shutout as a member of the New York Rangers, so he looked really good, and the Oilers could not find the back of the net. So this time, their defense wasn't overly bad. Skinner kept them in a lot of the action. It could have been a lot worse if it was not for Stuart Skinner. But once again, their defense is not overly great. It let in a couple of goals that shouldn't have, and their offense was non-existent in this game. So the Oilers continue to drop, now at 1-5-1, heading into the Heritage Classic on Sunday. The Flames also found themselves on the losing end of a 3-0 game, dropping the 3-0 game to the St. Louis Blues, who improved to 3-2-1 on the year. Blues got Sundqvist having a goal and an assist in that game, first as being back with a member of the St. Louis Blues. Meanwhile, Kapanen and Leddy also scored for the St. Louis Blues, and Yoel Hofer stopped all 27 shots he faced in his first career NHL shutout. So Hofer had a fantastic game for the St. Louis Blues. Flames could not solve Hofer, and their defense could not keep the puck out of the net in those 3 goals. So for the first time, I think it said in like 2014, the Flames and the Oilers were shut out on the exact same day. So Flames dropped to 2-5-1 in the loss, and Oilers dropped to 1-5-1 in the loss. Those 2 teams are limping into the Heritage Classic right now. They're not doing overly well, and they guarantee a below 500 record to begin the season. So really bad stuff there from both the Oilers and the Flames as they dropped to 1-5-1 for the Oilers and 2-5-1 for the Flames following 3-0 shutout losses. Going over to yesterday's game action, the Blackhawks were also able to end the last remaining team's undefeated streak. Knights fall 4-3 in overtime to the Chicago Blackhawks. Blackhawks got goals from Bedard, Radish, Kurashev, who scored his OT winner, and Donato. Well, the Knights got goal and assist from Carlson and Theodore, and Dorofeev also scored for the Knights. The Knights were up to 7-0-0, so they were 1 win ahead of the Avs and the Bruins. But just like the Avs and the Bruins yesterday, Knights would lose their first game of the season as well. Knights dropped to 7-0-1, so their point streak increases to 8 games. But they do drop to 7-0-1 on the season. Still a solid start, from my opinion, for the defending champs. But after starting 7-0-0, they've now lost their first game. Hawks improved to 3-5-0. They've definitely shown they're all right and they can compete with some of the better teams in the league. So good to see that the Hawks are able to get another win. Bedard looks fantastic still. They're getting some depth scoring from different places. And even though they don't have a great record, that's a solid win in my opinion for the Chicago Blackhawks over the Golden Knights. Then the Canes play Sharks, both teams coming on the second half of a back-to-back, and the Sharks for the second consecutive game will be shut out, as the Canes were able to be beating them 3-0, as the Canes continue their really good dominance and improve to a record of 5-4-0. They're now above 500, so solid moves there from the Carolina Hurricanes. The Canes were able to get a hat trick from Teuvo Teravainen. You got one in the first, if I'm correct. You got another one, and you got this one here that completed the hat trick and got the Canes up 3-0 on the San Jose Sharks. So, natural hat trick for Teravainen lead the Canes to a victory over the San Jose Sharks. He looked fantastic in this game. Manta stopped all 20 shots he faced in the shutout victory. Canes looked fantastic to improve to 5-4-0, and in the last few games they've actually been able to defend quite well. I know they lost 3-0 in a shutout loss to Tampa, but they did pretty well. They then came from behind to get a 3-2 OT victory against Seattle, and now they've won 3-0 against San Jose. So they're starting to get the better defensive outings, so I expect Carolina to start turning things around, now up 5-4-0. Sharks could not find offense for a second consecutive game. They only have 8 goals in 8 games, so that's really concerning. They continue to give up goals, and they're now down to 0-7-1, the only team who's still winless in the NHL. So going to be interesting to see how San Jose does. The New Jersey Devils were able to come away with a huge 5-4 victory over the Buffalo Sabres. Really good back and forth action. Both teams had the lead at different points in the game. Eric Holla scored twice in this game. Luke Hughes had a 2-assist game, while Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, and Alex Holtz all got on the score sheet with goals for the New Jersey Devils. Meanwhile, Cozens, Peterka, Thompson, and Dahlin were 4 scorers for the Buffalo Sabres. Devils needed that win after losing to the Washington Capitals, so a huge win there. They are able to get the win, improve their record. They're now 4-2-1 on the year, so a solid win for the Devils. Must need a win there. Sabres go back down to below 500 by 2 games, down to 3-5-0, so definitely needed some more improvements in that game in my opinion, but Buffalo is able to do really well and keeping pace with one of the better teams in the league in my opinion. So they could have come away with the victory, but a late goal from the Devils from Eric Hall, his second of the game, wound up being the game winner. So Sabres do fall to the Devils 5-4, a really close game, but Sabres do wind up losing. In a very close game, the Capitals were able to oust the Minnesota Wild in a shootout, 3-2. Back-to-back wins for the Capitals. That looks really good for them right now. The Caps were able to get a couple of goals from Strome and Wilson in regulation. Meanwhile, John Carlson got the lone shootout goal for the Capitals in the shootout win. And then Ryan Hartman and Marco Rossi both scored for the Wild in regulation. So Wild definitely looked all right, but they do fall again. Back-to-back losses on back-to-back nights. They dropped to 3-3-2 on the year, still staying at 500, which is good. But they could have easily beat the Caps in this game, gone above 500. So they'll take the point, but they could have easily had the second one. Caps, though, improved to 500 after a poor start and are up to 3-3-1 on the year. Still not being able to score a ton of goals, but their goaltending was really good in this game, and they're able to get enough offense to get the win. So huge win there for the Washington Capitals as they improved to 3-3-1. Then you had the Vancouver Canucks play the St. Louis Blues, who are on the second half of a back-to-back, and they absolutely smoked them. Vancouver, in the first game off of their 5-game road trip, was able to beat the St. Louis Blues 5-0. Hughes would score the first goal of the game, as well as this goal here, which was the second goal of the game, to give the Canucks a 2-0 lead. He wound up finishing this game with a 2-goal game. JT Miller had a 3-point night with a goal and 2 assists. Elias Pettersson had 2 assist nights. Both Mikheyev and Giuseppe also scored for the Vancouver Canucks in the win, while Thatcher Demko stopped all 22 shots he faced in the shutout victory, and the Canucks improved to 5-2-0 in the season. Definitely 5-2-0 is a ton better start than 0-5-2, which was what they had in the first 7 games last year. So the Canucks look absolutely fantastic. St. Louis gets shut out after beating the Flames and shutting them out. So definitely looked like they were a little bit slow after beating the Flames last night. The loss for the Blues drops them down to 3-3-1, so they're back down to 500. Still all right start for the St. Louis Blues, but definitely got whooped by the Vancouver Canucks in that game. So Canucks absolutely destroyed them and improved to 3 games above 500 now at 5-2-0, and still are second in the Pacific Division. But the third in Pacific Division also won yesterday, as the LA Kings were able to come from behind and beat the Arizona Coyotes 5-4. They were down 4-1 at one point, late in the first period, I think. Late in the first period, Yotes were up 4-1. They looked like they were going to come away with the victory, but the LA Kings were able to come and storm back, scoring 4 consecutive goals to beat the Coyotes 5-4. The Kings with the win improved to 4-1. Drew Doughty had a couple of goals for the LA Kings. Mikey Anderson and Quinn Byfield had a goal and an assist. Adrian Kempe had 2 assists this game, while Anze Kopitar also scored for the LA Kings in the win. Meanwhile, Janice Jerome Moser scored his first of the season and had a goal and 8 assists for the Arizona Coyotes, while Jersey, Michelli, and McBain all also scored for the Arizona Coyotes in the loss as they fall to a record of 3-4-0, so they're now below 500. This was a winnable game for Arizona. Had they been able to hold on, they would have been above 500, so definitely some things to learn on from the young Arizona Coyotes team, but they do fall. Kings continue their hot start to the season. 4-1, fantastic start to the year. Not to the Knights level of winning right now, but they're still doing really good, and they're third in the Pacific Division, and they're increasing their lead for third in the Pacific. So definitely some solid games there from all of those teams. So that's all the game recaps from the last couple of days. Definitely had a lot of good game action. Love to hear your guys' thoughts on what some of your best games were from over the past couple of days. We have a couple of games over the next few days. Later today, we have 9 games on the schedule for Saturday. By the time this video gets out to YouTube, this game may already be done, but the Anaheim Ducks are taking on the Philadelphia Flyers at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Then at 3 p.m. Pacific time, the Seattle Kraken will take on the Florida Panthers. Interesting game there. Then at 4 o'clock, we have 2 heavyweights going against each other as the Detroit Red Wings take on the Boston Bruins. The Leafs will take on the Predators. Jets take on Canadiens. Isles take on the Blue Jackets. Sens take on the Penguins. And then at 7 o'clock, you have the Rangers taking on the Canucks. And at 7:30, you have the Knights and the Kings. So a lot of really good games there. Tomorrow, there are 4 games. At 10 a.m. Pacific time, the Avalanche will take on the Sabres. At 2 p.m. Pacific time, the Wild take on the Devils, and the Sharks take on the Capitals. And then at 4 p.m. Pacific time is the Heritage Classic between the 2 Alberta teams. So it'll be interesting to see which Alberta team is able to avoid the losing streak first. Then we have another 9-game day on Monday, as the Panthers take on the Bruins, the Canes take on the Flyers, the Ducks take on the Penguins, Kraken take on the Bolts at 4 o'clock. At 4:30, we have the Red Wings and Isles, Rangers and Jets. At 5 o'clock, we have the Jackets and Stars. At 7 o'clock, Blackhawks and Coyotes. And at 7 o'clock, Golden Knights and Canadiens. So that's all of the game action on Monday, and Monday is actually the first bunch of teams will actually be reaching the 10-game mark. If I'm correct, if memory serves me correctly, the Canes, the Red Wings, the Kraken, and the Golden Knights all hit the 10-game mark on October 30th, which will be this Monday. So when we talk about all the game reviews on Tuesday, we'll be able to discuss the first 2 teams reaching the 10-game mark. So that's all we're going to talk about here today. Love to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments on what you think about the last few days of game action. And what do you think about the next 2 games of the NHL? And who do you think is going to finish with the wins in these next couple of days? Definitely. Let's hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments. That's what we're going to talk about for today. Remember to like this video. And if you're like to, remember to subscribe down below. We are so close to 200 subscribers. I would never be able to do it without all of you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe down below. I also do a blog talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that. So definitely check that out. I'll leave links down in the description below. And I can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.